It's the first quiet minute of your morning. The kettle clicks off. You drop the bag into your favorite mug, pour the water, and watch it bloom. The same soft curl you've watched 1,000 times. Or maybe it's the last thing you do at night. The house is finally still, and this warm cup tells your body the day is over. You didn't do anything wrong. You bought the box that said calm. You bought the one that said natural, or wellness, or heritage. You did everything the label asked you to do. But when researchers at Gill University steeped a single plastic tea bag at brewing temperature, that one bag released about 11.6 billion microplastic particles, plus 3.1 billion nanoplastic particles into the cup. Not over a lifetime. In one steep. Here's the part nobody prints on the box. The leaf isn't the problem. The bag is. And the brand you'd trust the most, the one you'd hand to your kid before bed, that's the one sitting dead last. I won't say the name yet. So do this now. Drop the tea brand you buy in the comments right now. By the end, you'll know exactly where it landed. By the end, you'll also know 4 words the industry hopes you never learn: polypropylene, nylon, epichlorohydrin, and hyperaccumulator. Once you can read them, you can read the box. Let's start at number 8. For years, the tea conversation was about the leaf. Is it organic? Is it fair trade? How much caffeine? That was the fight everyone was having on the shelf. Meanwhile, the bag holding the leaf quietly changed material. And almost nobody was watching. Let me be straight with you, because this only works if I am. This is not a video that says tea is poison. The studies are careful, and so am I. Researchers at Gill confirmed the particles come off the bag. A 2024 team at the Autonomous University of Barcelona went further. They showed human gut cells actually absorb these particles, and that the particles reach the cell nucleus, where your DNA lives. That part is real, and it's confirmed. What is not settled, and I'm going to keep saying this, is the long-term health effect in humans. Scientists say that's still unknown and needs more study. So this is not a fear video. The crime here isn't poison. The crime is what's left off the label. It's a fraud of omission. The bag is doing something you were never told about, and you paid for the leaf. Keep that frame the whole way down. We're not ranking which tea is deadly. We're ranking who hides the most. Number 8, Lipton. This is the everyman bag. It's in more American cupboards than almost any other tea. Plain paper square, string, little tag. Nothing silky, nothing luxury. You look at it and you think, that's just paper. Paper is safe. Here's what you're actually brewing. Most standard Lipton bags aren't sealed shut with glue you'd recognize. They're heat sealed with a thin web of polypropylene. That's secret word number 1. Polypropylene is a plastic. It's what lets the edges of a paper bag fuse closed and stay closed in near boiling water instead of falling apart in your cup. And here's the mechanism that matters. In a 2024 study out of Barcelona, polypropylene was the worst offender of the 3 materials they tested. It shed on the order of over 1 billion particles per milliliter of water. Cellulose, real plant fiber, shed a tiny fraction of that. So the plastic isn't just present. It's the part doing most of the shedding. Now look at the box. It doesn't say polypropylene anywhere. It doesn't have to. The seal is invisible, the word is absent, and the silence is the whole trick. Why Lipton lands at 8 and not higher? At least Lipton never sold you a story. It never pretended to be the clean, green, plant-based choice. The brands that did that are further up. Hold that thought. Number 7, the Aldi store brand tea. This one's here for a reason bigger than Aldi. This is the national aisle, the private label box, the one you reach for because it's a couple dollars cheaper and tea is tea, right? Millions of people buy the store brand precisely because they think they're being smart with money. Now watch the detail that gets skipped. Aldi's own label tea shows up on a list compiled by the Center for Environmental Health of brands whose bags contain plastic. So the bargain box isn't a loophole out of the problem. You paid less and you're steeping the same category of material as the name brands. And this is the quiet math of the cheap shelf. When you buy down on price in tea, you don't just get a thinner brand story. You often get older, coarser leaf, and a bag built to survive a fast machine line. The plastic seal is part of what makes cheap bags cheap to run. The savings on the receipt don't come from nowhere. Something on the other side got cheaper too. So paying less didn't buy you out. It bought you in. Same particles, smaller price tag. That's the trap of the store brand. Keep going, because the next brand doesn't sell itself as cheap. It sells itself as the healthy one. Number 6. Tazo. Tazo is the bag that feels like a lifestyle. Bright colors, names like Zen and Passion. The box that made tea feel like a little ritual instead of a habit. It reads modern, clean, a step up from the grocery square. Here's what the marketing hides. Tazo has been named among brands whose bags contain microplastic, and the company's line is that it's transitioning to plant-based bags. Read that carefully. Transitioning. That's a promise about the future written on a box you're buying in the present. Moving toward is not arrived. And this is where I need to plant a word you'll hear again at the very top of this list, PLA. It's a bioplastic made from cornstarch, and it's the industry's favorite escape hatch. The thing companies switch to so they can print plant-based on the box. Hold on to that word. It sounds like the solution. It isn't, and I'll show you why with the brand at number 2. So Tazo's crime is tense, literally, verb tense. It's selling you tomorrow's bag at today's checkout, while the one in your hand still sheds. The next one up is older than your grandmother, and it has a lab problem it doesn't talk about. Number 5. Twinings. Twinings wears its history like a crown. A brand pouring tea since the early 1700s, royal warrants, the whole heritage aisle in one box. Heritage feels like safety. If they've done it for 3 centuries, surely they've done it right. But look at what the crown doesn't mention. Twinings' website has talked about using a cornstarch bioplastic in its bags. But when researchers at the University of East Anglia investigated tea bags in 2020, they reported finding polypropylene in Twinings bags. Heritage on the front, plastic in the seal. Both can be true, and that gap is the story. And Twinings gets our 3rd secret word, because it opens up something in almost every paper bag, epichlorohydrin. Say it slowly, epichlorohydrin. It's a wet-strength chemical used to treat paper so it doesn't disintegrate when it hits hot water. The catch: epichlorohydrin is classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a probable human carcinogen, and when it meets water, it can hydrolyze into a compound called 3-MCPD, itself flagged as a possible carcinogen. This is the chemistry that makes a paper bag behave like it's laminated. So stack it up. The oldest, most trusted name on the shelf carries both the plastic and the chemistry, and the price tag is higher, not lower, for the privilege. 3 centuries of reputation, and the one thing they modernized was the seal. Paying more didn't buy you out either. Quick check before the top 4. Everything so far: the everyman bag, the bargain box, the lifestyle brand, the heritage name, they all had one thing in common. They're brands you already half suspected could cut a corner. The next 4 are different. These are the ones that built their whole identity on being the exception. This is where the betrayal starts. Number 4, Tetley. Listen closely here, because Tetley is where the pattern stops being an accident and starts being an industry standard. Tetley is a top-shelf mass brand, one of the biggest tea names in the world, the round bags, the reliable cup. Reliable is exactly the feeling they sell. Here's what that reliability is built on. In that same 2020 University of East Anglia work, Tetley bags were reported to contain polypropylene, the seal plastic from number 8, back again. And this is the tell. When researchers brewed these bags and then looked at what was left, the bag didn't dissolve into harmless mush. It left behind a plastic skeleton, a mesh structure that held its shape after the leaf was gone. Sit with that image, because it's your first home test and we'll come back to it. A real all-paper bag tears and pulps. A bag that leaves a stubborn, intact little frame behind is telling you what it's made of. Why Tetley anchors the top 4. It's not a niche brand or a mistake. It's a giant, and it's running the same polypropylene seal as the cheap box, which means this isn't one bad company. It's the default. And once something is the default, the brands charging you a premium to escape it had better actually escape it. Number 3 charges you the most and escapes the least. Number 3, the luxury pyramids, Tivana and T Forte. This is the turn. Everything below was priced like a commodity. This is where you pay up. The tall pyramid sachet, the see-through mesh, the whole leaf pieces you can watch unfurl. The industry calls it silk. That word is doing a lot of work. Here's what silk actually is. Those glossy pyramid bags are typically made of nylon or PET. That's secret word number 2, and it's plastic, full stop. not a plastic seal on paper. The entire bag is a woven plastic mesh. It's not silk. There are no silkworms involved. The name is the lie. And this is the bag from the top of this video. Remember Mesigill's number, 11.6 billion microplastic particles from a single bag at brewing temperature? That study used exactly this kind of nylon pyramid sachet. So the most expensive tea in the aisle is, by material, the single most documented shedder we have a hard number for. Let that reframe the price for you. You didn't pay extra for cleaner tea. You paid extra to watch the leaves float, inside a plastic net that's shedding billions of particles into the water you're admiring. The premium bought you a better view of a worse problem. And if premium plastic is bad, surely the plant-based, plastic-free wellness brands are the safe harbor. That's number 2. And it's the cruelest one on the list. Number 2, the wellness herbals, yogi and traditional medicinals. This is the surprise, and here's why it stings. These are the brands that market themselves as the answer to everything you just heard. Plastic-free, plant-based, compostable. The little string with the paper tag and a mantra printed on it. If you got nervous during the last 4 minutes, this is the box you'd switch to. So let me be fair and precise, because this one deserves it. Many of these wellness bags really did drop the polypropylene. That's real. But a lot of them switched to that word I planted at number 6, PLA, the cornstarch bioplastic. And here's the part the box doesn't say out loud. PLA is still a plastic. When it meets boiling water, it still sheds microplastic particles. And compostable doesn't mean it vanishes in your backyard bin. PLA only breaks down in an industrial composting facility at high heat, which almost no home has access to. So read the silence. The box says plant-based. It does not say sheds no plastic, because it can't. Plant-based was never a promise about particles. It was a promise about sourcing, and you were allowed to hear it as safety. That's why the healthiest sounding tea sits at number 2. It didn't lie about ingredients. It let a true word about the plant do the work of a false word about the plastic. But there's one brand worse, because it's the one you were most likely to pour for your child before bed. Number 1, Celestial Seasonings. This is the brand you trust with the people you love most. Sleepy Time, the sleepy bear on the box, the tea you steep for your kid before bed, the one that says all natural and wellness in soft, calming letters. Nothing on that shelf feels safer. That feeling is exactly why it sits at number 1. Here's what earns it the top spot. And it's not one thing, it's 2. First, the bag. Celestial Seasonings appears on the same list of brands whose tea bags contain plastic. So everything we've said about seals and shedding applies here too on the tea you hand to a child. But second, and this is the double crime, in 2013, an independent lab, Eurofins, tested Celestial Seasonings teas and reported that 10 out of 11 samples exceeded several limits for pesticide residue. 10 out of 11. And that same year, in November 2013, the company was hit with a class action lawsuit over its 100% natural claims. Now, I'll be straight with you. The group that commissioned that lab was a short seller with a financial stake, and Celestial pushed back with its own testing of brewed tea. So treat this as a serious allegation that reached a civil courtroom, not a closed verdict. I'm telling you both sides on purpose. And here's our 4th secret word, which lands hardest right here. The tea plant is a hyperaccumulator. It naturally pulls fluoride out of the soil and concentrates it in its leaves, and the older, cheaper leaves hold the most. A cheap black tea can run around 6 milligrams of fluoride per liter, and 4 cups a day of the cheap stuff can push you past the USA's daily limit of 4 milligrams. So the wellness cup, brewed from older leaf, in a plastic bag, marketed for your child's bedtime, can be carrying pesticide residue allegations, a plastic seal, and a fluoride load all at once. That's the whole thesis in one box. The more a brand asks you to trust it, natural, wellness, made for kids, the more it turned out to be hiding. The front of the box is marketing. The back of the box is the truth. And nowhere does that prove itself harder than the tea you thought was the safest. Pause the countdown for a second, because none of this is an accident. To understand how the safest sounding cup ended up full of plastic, you have to go back more than 100 years. The tea bag was born by mistake, around 1908. A New York tea merchant named Thomas Sullivan sent out samples in little silk pouches. His customers didn't understand they were supposed to open them, so they just dropped the whole pouch in hot water. The bag wasn't invented. It was a misunderstanding that sold well. And once it sold, the problem became industrial. If you want to run tea bags by the millions on a high-speed machine, the bag has to do two things. It has to seal shut fast, and it has to survive boiling water without falling apart. Paper alone can't do that. So the industry solved it with chemistry. They welded the edges with polypropylene so the seal would hold, and they treated the paper with epichlorohydrin so it wouldn't disintegrate. Every word you learned in this video is really just a solution to the same engineering problem. Make the bag cheap, fast, and indestructible in hot water. Then came 2019. MC Gill published that 11.6 billion number, and suddenly plastic in tea was a headline. The industry needed an answer that fit on a box. So many brands switched to PLA, the cornstarch bioplastic, and printed plant-based and compostable. But PLA still sheds in hot water and still needs an industrial facility to break down. They didn't change the chemistry. They changed the word on the box. And notice the pattern in the fix. Each time the problem got exposed, the industry didn't remove the plastic. It renamed it. Polypropylene became a cornstarch bioplastic. Bioplastic became plant-based. Plant-based became compostable. 4 different words on the box, one unchanged thing in the water. That's the machine. It was never built to trick you. It was built for speed and shelf life, and speed leaves the plastic off the label. The particles falling into your cup aren't a scandal to the system. They're just the part of the process nobody was required to print. Now let's do the math nobody puts on the box. Take that one nylon pyramid, 11.6 billion particles in a single steep. If you drink 2 or 3 cups a day, every day, that's on the order of 1 trillion plus particles a year passing through you from the bags alone. Not over a lifetime, in a year. And the cheap end has its own bill. Those bargain black tea bags run about 6 milligrams of fluoride per liter, and 4 cups a day can push you past the 4 milligram daily limit, a slow load you're paying to drink because it felt like the frugal choice. Now watch the twist that should actually change what you buy. Loose leaf tea, brewed in a steel strainer, is usually cheaper per cup than the premium pyramids, and it has no bag to shed at all. You've been paying more for the version that shed the most, and less for the version that's cleaner. The receipt had it backwards the whole time. Before I tell you what passed, kill 2 myths you've seen go viral online. Myth 1, paper bags are safe. Only the silky ones are plastic. That's the comforting one, and it's wrong. The paper square is heat-sealed with polypropylene and often treated with epichlorohydrin. The plastic on a paper bag is just invisible instead of shiny. You can't see this one, which is exactly why the myth survives. Myth 2, compostable means plastic-free. Also wrong. PLA is both compostable and a plastic. It composts in an industrial facility and sheds in your mug. Compostable is a claim about a facility you'll never send it to, not a claim about the water in your cup. Once you can see through both of those, you can read any tea box in the store. So what actually passed? 3 answers. And notice the winner isn't the most expensive brand. It's the one that hides the least, judged by the exact same rule that sank everyone above. First, Bigelow. It's a mass-market brand you can grab at a normal grocery store, and the company states it doesn't use polypropylene, nylon, or PET in its bags. More than 90% of its bags use no plastic seal at all, and the rest use a plant-based starch. One honest caveat, watch their pyramid line specifically, which is a separate question. I'm crediting the flat paper bags here. And on ownership, Bigelow is still family-owned and independent, so there's no parent company hiding in the list above. Second, Numi. It's a certified B Corp, independent, and it's transparent about its bag materials. Plain paper bags with no plastic seal, and it tells you so instead of making you guess. Third, and this is the real winner, loose leaf tea with a stainless steel strainer. Think about why it wins by our own rule. There's no bag, so there's no sealed edge, no polypropylene, no nylon mesh, no epichlorohydrin-treated paper, and no PLA. You also get to choose younger, better leaf instead of the old fluoride-heavy dust that fills cheap bags. The winner isn't a better brand. It's no bag at all. Here's what you can do tonight before you buy another box. Test 1. Look at the bag. If it's a glossy, see-through pyramid or a smooth mesh sachet, that shine is nylon or PET. That texture is plastic. You've basically confirmed it with your eyes. Test 2. The tear and pulp test. Take an empty used bag and pull it apart. Reel all paper tears and pulps into fibers. A bag that leaves behind a stubborn little mesh skeleton that won't rip is telling you there's plastic in it. One honest limit. This test won't catch a thin polypropylene seal on an otherwise flat paper bag. That one hides too well to feel. So don't treat a clean tear as a guarantee. Test 3. Read for the specific word, then switch. Look for polypropylene-free, plastic-free, or no PLA on the box. But here's the caveat that keeps you honest. Bags rarely disclose the seal glue at all, so the absence of a scary word is not proof of safety. The surest move isn't reading a better box. It's going loose leaf with a steel strainer and skipping the bag question entirely. So let's lock in what you can read now that you couldn't 20 minutes ago. You now know polypropylene is the invisible plastic that seals a paper bag shut, and it's the single biggest shedder in the water. You now know nylon and PET are what silk pyramids are actually made of, and that's the bag behind the 11.6 billion particle number. You now know epichlorohydrin is the wet-strength chemical treating the paper, and that it can turn into 3-MCPD in hot water. You now know PLA is the plant-based, compostable bioplastic that still sheds and only breaks down in an industrial facility. You now know the tea plant is a hyperaccumulator that concentrates fluoride in its oldest, cheapest leaves. You now know the tear and pulp test, the shine test, and the one move that beats all of them: loose leaf and a steel strainer. And you now know the pattern. The more a brand sold you on natural, heritage, or wellness, the more it had left off the label. Their whole model runs on one assumption: that you'd never put the pieces together, that you'd read plant-based is safe and never ask what the bag was made of. That assumption just expired. You can read the box now. So tell me, did your brand make the list? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. And if the name at number 1 is sitting in someone's cupboard for their kid's bedtime tea, send them this. That's the one person who most needs to read the box the way you can now.